So hello everyone, and today is another day. I'm streaming on a Saturday, which I think is the first time. But I was going over some bugs, and you might notice if you download the repository right now that the Emscripten file is working. Now, for some reason, it always takes a long time uh, to build when it's cold. I don't know why. But we can now go and check this out. Not this one. Here we go. So yeah, you can notice that it's working now. The font and everything, the messages, all looks good. And I would just go over very quickly what I was doing to fix those issues. But one thing also, if you notice that this is a little bit, it looks like it's lagging. It's not actually lagging. The reason why it's a pretty low refresh rate is because I set it to 20 FPS. So just be aware of that. So what did I change? Well, the first thing I changed was, what was it? Well, let's go over the things that I remember that I changed. So one thing was this graphics version checking. I just added more things here to be able to better, keep track of what's going on. And you can see those all those things are here. So we get the max texture size, uniform block size, uniform bindings, blocks, and whatever. And what I realized that I made one major mistake, and that is that I don't have as many blocks as I was thinking that I would be able to have. So I think this 24 is the limit of the uniform buffers that I'm allowed to bind. And that's an issue because in main, you will notice here, I'm using UBOs in two places. One is where I'm creating my font. So there should be one UBO per font that I'm loading. So that's fine because there's only maybe 3 of them. And it's shared between different sizes. Or no, it's not shared between different sizes. It probably could be. I'm not sure. I think maybe there's a way to use mipmaps for this instead. But that's one thing, and that's not a huge issue. But the other thing is here in my text create function. Every time I'm pushing a text to be displayed, such as this one, I am using a UBO. Now, I could have one UBO and then I just update that in between draws, but that's kind of a shitty way of doing it. And that's not what you want to do. It's also subject to delay. So you can imagine that you are updating the UBO and then you're pushing the draw command. And then you want to change the UBO, but actually you have to wait for the UBO to be consumed by the draw call before you can actually update it. And that can cause some stuttering because you might need to like wait for the UBO to be free to be used again. And obviously the way to get around that would be to reuse the same UBO because you can notice here the UBO size is fairly big. It's 64K. So you can reuse one UBO, or you can have multiple UBOs that you're like sort of cycling, similar to like a frame buffer. But I figured this is just, it's not a good solution, and I'm gonna revert it back to a VBO today. So the benefit of a VBO is that now suddenly you can have as many characters as your graphics memory card can fit. So you're not really restricted by the number of characters because you could draw if you can draw an object that is 50,000 tries, then you can draw a string that is, several thousands of lines in one draw call, right? So that's one thing. Another thing I noticed was an issue was that my character count and the buffer size was misaligned again. So if you remember, some time ago in this, I noticed that I had this bug in WebGL specifically. You have to have the buffer size here to be exactly the same as the one that you're defining in on the CPU. So we have a buffer create. When we are creating this buffer, we're adding the stride and the count. So in this scenario, the count would be the number of glyphs and the stride would be the data for each glyph, which again is like 16 bytes. That should be in alphabet. Yeah, so this is 12 bytes, but it's aligned, so it becomes 16. Anyway, the point I'm making is what I was doing, it was in main. No, it wasn't in main. It was in the alphabet.c. In here, I was counting the, let's go to the top, this VF buffer count. And for some reason, I was counting this to be the number of bytes rather than the number of characters. And also because the buffer size has to be exactly the same, like it has to be uniform. If we go here, text max. What is the name of this again? Let's look here. It's in the game, max. Here we go. String glyph max. It's kind of a weird name, maybe. No? Alphabet? Right. So if we have Emscripten defined, we have to set the glyph count to be the max amount because otherwise it's not allowed by WebGL. WebGL doesn't allow you to have like kind of variable sized buffers between like the size in the shader has to be exactly the same as the one on the CPU. So on Windows, you can just pass in the glyph count and then you can just calculate the size on the fly. But yeah, for WebGL specifically, you need to do this. And I was calculating the number of bytes instead of the number of glyphs. And then in my buffer create here, I am now correctly counting the stride and the count. So it's not the count of the bytes, it's the count of the glyphs. And then the last error, and this was a little bit difficult for me to find, but I managed to do it after a couple of hours. And that was, if we look here again, you can see that this texture is showing. The issue I had was that it was completely black. And I was thinking like, okay, well, the reason why it's black is probably because there's something wrong with the memory. So I was looking here at the draw call inspector, and I was scrolling down, I think somewhere, and I don't know exactly. I forget exactly how it looked like, but here it said something like that the texture didn't exist, or it was never assigned any data or something like that. And I found out that the reason why that happened, and this is kind of stupid, honestly, because it works on Windows. And if it works on Windows, why is it not working on Emscripten or WebGL or something like this? It's really difficult to track it down. We are going to texture create. Well, it turns out that I was doing this gen textures. I was calling gen textures, and then I was placing that into my graphics text IDX, and then I was binding this IDX. But the problem is, if you look here, well, this is graphics texture. I need the actual texture. Here we go. This is a bool, which typically is cast to a single byte, and this is another byte. So this U8 data, because it's a U8, it has alignment of 1. So this was on the third byte in the struct, and there was nothing like normally the compiler enforces some kind of padding, but because this was a U8, and I want it to be a U8 because I want to be able to refer to it as a U8 because it's just binary data or byte data. Because this was offset by 2, this suddenly didn't work because for some reason on WASM, I guess this has to be aligned to a 4. And I'm not sure if on Windows Clang is actually doing this padding, because normally you would do like pad 2 here so that this would be one full U32. And then this would show up on the 5th byte. Counting from 1, it would be the 5th byte. So because of that, this was completely failing. This was like returning 0. I'm not sure if it was returning 0 because it couldn't, because the memory was like invalid, or if it just like if I was reading it after it was set and it couldn't really figure it out. But I realized like when I added this align as 64, and there's I could manually do U8 pad 2. But instead of doing that, I figured just using this align as on all of them. And you can see some of them are U32, some of them are U64. I don't know if it has a huge difference. I'm putting this on a U32 because I think the data of this bitmap is actually U8. So it doesn't need to be, it would never have a pointer inside. So that's why I put U32 there. But yeah. But when I added this, that solved all of my problems. And then finally, we are back to square one. Oh, and also one thing, the reason why this was not working was because in the build here, I forget to use handmade math use terms. And then there was some like window stuff or window wasm. Something in here, I just like added the x equal. Mouse start, touch start. I added something here to just set the size of the window. Yeah, this is what I did. First, I swapped the Y direction. And I think I set this also somewhere. Yeah, here I'm setting it on callback resize. So yeah, that's all the things I was doing yesterday. I wasn't streaming because I just didn't find the time for it. But now you're up to speed. Yeah. What kind of game am I developing? Well, I went over that on the first day. So if you go to my videos, you should be able to watch that. It's not a great explanation because I am not 100% sure what I'm developing, but like just roughly, you know what asteroids is, right? So we have asteroids game. It's this very simple game, and it's something that I wanted to recreate essentially. But because it's a very simple thing, or it's not a very simple thing, but like I didn't want to make something very overly complicated. My main focus would be like developing an engine that works on multiple platforms. And what I will do is I will just literally make my little asteroids clone, and then I will add some mechanics related to fuel management. And when you have more fuel, this little the spaceship will have more mass, so it will be slower to move around. But then also you have to farm the asteroids to get more fuel, and if you run out of fuel, then that's kind of game over. So, and then I had some more ideas how to take that further. Like for example, maybe you would mod the ship so that it would be stronger. So if it's stronger, it can have a bigger engine, but then also you're heavier. So maybe you can add some cool things like here's an arm to grab an asteroid or something like that. Like we can get to that when we get there. The main focus is the engine, not the game. But I would still like to make something that is fun enough to play, and something that you can like have fun with for 30 minutes comfortably, but still not dedicate myself 3 years of making something that you know I don't have I haven't like super fleshed out. Yeah. With that said, I think we're ready to start. And like I was saying, I would like to change the EBO, or no, not EBO, UBO, specifically for text creates. So I was already making a comment here. This works poorly. There's only a dozen or two of the UBOs available. This is unorthodox and unnecessary. We should be using VAO, actually VBOs instead. So that's what I'm going to be doing first. And once that's done, I would like to go into the game here. And you might notice that I am, well, not main. It would be game.c. Right. So right now what I'm doing is I'm just like declaring an entity, or well, this exists on the, it exists in the game state. But then I'm just like saying, oh, the 0th one is this type of entity. It has this scale translation, and then I'm assigning some primitive to that and all those things. And basically all of this should just be a function to create an entity. And then I want to make another function to destroy the entity. And then, I have my very, very basic entity system going on. Unity or in other game engine development easier than OpenGL. So I don't know about Unity specifically. Maybe the newer versions are using a web GPU, but I know that Unity can export to web. So for sure, and also it can export to mobile phones, right? So for sure, Unity is supporting OpenGL. if it's using Vulkan by default on Linux or on Windows, I couldn't tell. I haven't used Unity in like 7 years. But this is the hard way of doing it. So like it's still the easier way because I'm using Emscripten. Emscripten is just like the sort of framework to translate your C code into a web app directly. So it's doing all of the hard work behind taking all of my C code and translating that into WebGL. And I'm doing print statements here, so that like there's some JavaScript being generated that is like there's some kind of function pointer that that is being set up automatically for me so that I can print things. And I'm not 100% sure how it works because I didn't spend the time to learn how to do a WASM and JavaScript program myself. That's why I'm using Emscripten. But it's still like, a step below using Unity or something like that. Yeah, anyway, we can go on with this buffer create. Now, it's been a while since I was touching the OpenGL code, so I'm not sure if I will mess this up. So we have the VBO. We have the shape. This buffer count, you can see here that I'm setting the string length max. You guess I love C. Nowadays, I improve myself with C for more hard algorithm in embedded system. Nice to meet you. Thanks. I wouldn't say that I love C in the sense that, wow, this is the best thing ever, but it's definitely the best language that I have used. So I started with I have tried every language in the book almost. Like I tried JavaScript, I've tried ActionScript. I started with ActionScript a very long time ago. I've done MATLAB. I have done Visual Basic, C Sharp, C++. I've tried like the only language I really haven't delved into deeply is modern JavaScript, TypeScript sort of stuff, and Python. I've never really used Python for anything. And then, like, okay, I've never tried Kotlin or, these weird languages that I don't know if anyone is really using unless they're supporting some older systems or something like that. There's the D lang or something like that. I've never used those. But out of the mainstream languages, like Python is the biggest one that I've never really tried. But C is my most favorite one out of the ones that I have tried, which is I've tried most styles, right? So VBO. Let's try. Whoops. Let's do if 0. And just do this. So now, if I'm building this, well, actually, this is never going to work. If we just change it back to UBO, you will see that the text disappears. There's no text here anymore. And that's exactly because of this thing. It needs to be exactly the same size of the buffer needs to be the same size in the on the CPU as on the GPU. But I want to do VBO, which means I have to think about how am I creating this. And the good thing is I have a reference. I have my triangle. Let's maybe compare on the right side. Well, this is why I chose UBO to begin with. And that is because I wanted to do this. I wanted to draw instanced. And if you draw instanced, then it's going to draw the same vertices over and over. So if I'm defining this buffer, it will draw the first letter basically over and over. So and I definitely don't want to draw every character individually. So what am I left to do then? Look here. I guess we just have to fill. Do we really have to fill in? No, we don't. So we don't have to fill in this because the pattern is always the same. It's 0, 1, 2, 0, 2, 3, and then the next one 4, 5, 6, 4, 6, 7, and then so on and so on and so on. So we just need to literally generate this, which we do have. It's our, we already have that. Buffer IDs. I feel like this is a little bit overcomplicating it. So let's just go like that. Shape. So in my buffer create, am I already copying some data over there? I'm only creating the buffer. And you can see it here. Buffer creates. No, it is using the data. Huh. That is the data right there. And you get the data there too. And then I just need to set the buffer primitive info. It's a mesh. We need the texture. So that's there. We don't need uniform buffers. So notice here, when I'm making the primitives, I'm setting up the buffers. They exist in memory now. But I'm actually creating the meshes in the game with this call. And here you can see that I'm using this primitive create. Doesn't have to be. I also have the mesh create here. But it just means that I don't have another example. But I'm using the primitive triangle as the buffer, right? State, the primitive enum, the program, textures I want to assign, and then something else I forget, and then another thing, which is the count of something. What is this? Uniform buffers, right? So that we can ignore. We can go to mesh create function. Yeah, I'm a little bit. I'm not very good at OpenGL, so I'm just having to like think aloud a little bit. So we are having null pointer and 0 for our uniform buffers. State tag, it's a font. We're using the font program. Draw count. So this would be, the draw count is all of the vertices that we need to draw. So for each square, which is one glyph, we are having 6 draw calls, or like 6 vertices needs to be like in order, times the glyph count. And this glyph count, or shape count it is. Then we have buffer IDs. And notice that I have buffer and uniform buffer. They're a little bit different. So this buffer IDs, VBO ID. What was that being used for? Did I? Oh, hold on. I need to double check my source. Let's see. This is in main. UBO ID. What was I doing? VBO ID. Is that anything? Do I ever set that? This is a UBO. So I guess that uniform buffer we do have. But this one, this must be unused because it shouldn't be there. But now we have a VBO ID. And we have only one. Array count. Uniform buffer IDs. because I make a distinction between buffers. These are all the normal buffers. So the VBO, EBO, I think that's all I'm supporting right now. And then UBO is different because it just has some different data associated with it. You can see it in buffer create. Maybe not there, but in the draw here, there's some special logic for UBOs. Yeah, this entire loop is for UBO. And then, you know, texture, whatever, this is also special. All right. So now I think that's all the code I really need to change. But obviously, it's not going to work because the shader is wrong. So let's see what even happens. Probably I'm going to get some kind of error. Or it's just not going to work. We can look at render doc. I don't need the update right now. Now it's trying to draw something instanced. Am I always trying to? Yeah, okay. I'm always trying to draw the font instanced. So I guess that we can remove. And then we add it here. And that now we're crashing. Okay. That's what I was expecting. Yeah, some access violation, blah, blah, blah. So it's interesting to me. Are we really crashing here? On the second or third, actually, because it's the third object that is the font. We're having draw count 162, makes sense. Or does it? I guess we have to double check that. Here. So the buffer count here is 27. So times 6. Yeah, makes sense. Okay. So it's gonna try to draw with this shader, but I guess it's crashing because the shader is literally not set up for that. So we need to open the shader. And I think it's only the vertex shader. The pixel shader should be nothing. Yeah. So this one we don't have to change. But the vertex shader. So obviously this thing, or maybe not this thing, but that is gone. And instead we are having Well, what do we have? I need to use my other one. Take vertex shader for the texture. It would be attribute vec4 shape. So I should probably show you string shape. Is that in alphabet? So this is the struct that we are trying to pass to the shader. We have an I32 offset X, I32 offset Y, U32 index. So that's already 12 bytes. Yeah, 12 bytes. And then this is just extra information, but it's not really used. It's kind of like whatever. Maybe I will even delete it again because this is what it is, really. This is what I'm just tracking when I'm shaping the text. But I don't think I actually need it here. And I'm not sure if there's maybe an optimization there. Is this actually better? Because the problem is this entire struct needs to be 16 bytes. And if it's not 16 bytes, then, or well, maybe it can be 16 bytes if it's not a UBO. I never considered that. We can try that later. But the main point now is that this is 12 bytes. The entire struct is 16. And I am interested in the first 12 bytes in the shader. So I need to have a vec4. And this is actually an integer ivec4. Now we do need, I don't think instance ID works if it's not a shader that is drawn as an instanced draw call. I don't think that works. But I still need to get the current draw call. Thank you. So we need to figure out how do we do this shader thing. Let's ask. So this is the perfect opportunity for me to use AI. I don't typically use it in my logic, but when it's about documentation, I think it's pretty good. So what we need to do, I have 300 ES shader. Let's see. Is this a keyword? So normally what I would do here is I would kind of rely on the IntelliSense, but IntelliSense doesn't work. Or at least I haven't found a way to make it work in VSCodium. Is it vertex ID? So if I have vertex ID, this is the pattern. 0, 1, 2, 0, 2, 3. And then the next one is 4, 5, 6, 4, 6, 7. And then you have 8, 9, 10, 8, 10, 11, and so on and so on. Now, if I'm having the vertex ID, that's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Right? It's going to be like this. So I could do. I'm pretty sure I would have to do this GL vertex ID. Mod 6. Actually, like that. Then when it reaches 6, it's 0 again. But I don't want to. I don't like. I still want to start here. And yeah, 6, 7, 8. So how would we do this? The first one goes as it is. I would have to do something like GL vertex ID divided by 6 plus this. And then we get kind of we get the same thing back, right? So for anything under 6, this would be times 6. Yeah. There's a good pattern here. Yeah, division and mod. We get the column by this. Yes. 0 to 5. We get the row by dividing by 6. Huh? Wait. I wrote the wrong thing. Yeah. Is it really this complicated? Like, it's not gonna be a problem with performance. But if I'm gonna have to do a bunch of else if, then I feel like there's maybe maybe a better solution. Okay, so just make an array. Okay, fair enough. So what it's saying is that we are keeping this, and we're having our vertex ID mod 6. But then we also have to add this divided by 6. And now we're using that. And I guess that's fine. It's better than a bunch of if else. So this is our shape. Int. This is int 32 by default, I'm pretty sure. So again, we're having the struct somewhere. I32, I32, U32. And it's exactly what I already have, so that works. And then the rest of the math should just like kind of work. And we don't have to recompile because we only changed the shader, and the shader is red on load. Attribute is deprecated, use in out. Okay. Implicit cast from int to IVEC4. Hmm? From int to IVEC4. Which int are we casting? Oh, wait. So let's take a look here. This is another vertex shader. This attribute works because I'm not using this version 300 or whatever. The position here is decided by the EBO, which is the buffer with the integers that we are selecting. I haven't bound an EBO. So in theory, they should just go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. No, I don't get it. Yes, exactly. I'm indexing into my shape, but how else am I supposed to get the shape from the VBO? Yeah. Uniform block or texture buffer. I don't want to do that. How do I get the value for my VBO specifically? Really? What is different here? So I would like to use the instance draw call. I don't understand. So from what I understand, when I write it like this, I have an in. This is the keyword in. That means that it's looking at what is coming from the VBO, the vertex buffer array or vertex buffer object. Now if I'm not if I'm not binding an EBO, so this the order to draw the vertices in, I'm assuming it's just going to draw 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like in order. If I'm using instance drawing, then I say, okay, here's a block of memory. I want you to draw some number of vertices at once. But the problem is it's going to draw those same vertices every single time. That's why you're calculating this vertex ID thing with the, what do you call it? Instance ID. And then it sort of works, but I'm still having the issue of indexing into this shape. So here you are having shape, and the shape is automatically the same for all vertices. So I do this Aha, okay. Maybe I get it. So let's do it like this and see how it works. We want to go back here and draw the instanced one. And right, this get attrib location that is set in main. Create shader program. Here, right? So we have all these uniforms. This is no longer a uniform. Instead, I have an attribute, such as this one. This attribute is called shape. Position, UV. Well, this is controlling the size of it, I believe. Hmm? I need to figure out where this is used. We have nothing here, nothing there. Well, not in the shader. Is this just completely unused? Shader attribute type. This is a shader attribute. We go into create shader program. We are reading the attributes. For every attribute, we cast this attribute. If it's a pause, if it's a UV, if it's a color, if it's invalid. Mm-hmm. So maybe what we should do, let's go back to alphabet. What? Alphabet.h. So let's delete all those. Let's call it vertex shape. These things are unused, so we don't even need them. Does that build? Oh. Permission denied is just me forgetting to close the program. Yeah, that builds. Right. We have vertex shape. We need to do extra the shader attributes. So we have shape. This is offset X. Offset Y. And glyph. Glyph ID. My tea is still too warm. So we need to define all these. That was done here. Unknown. Well, I'm fairly sure this is using graphics. No, not using graphics. Cool. Otherwise, I would have to move that struct somewhere else, which is probably fine. But you know, where are you? Stride is size of data type. Is what? GL int 32. GLint, I mean, I don't know. $32. Cool. Have I ever tried writing code in C for STM32? No. I have written code for a what's the chip again? What was it called? Not a Raspberry Pi, the smaller ones. Arduino, yeah, exactly. I have written C code for Arduino, but not STM32. It sounds something similar though. STM32. Micro, yeah. This exact thing I have written code for. But I guess I don't remember it being like, it's not that like I targeted STM32. I was just writing to like some Arduino processor that I bought online. And it worked fine. The biggest hurdle for me was that I couldn't find a decent emulator where I could debug what I was writing. So like I would write the code, I would hope that it was working, and then I would upload that to the chip, and then I would have to like unplug everything and like put it back and test it, and then you know it was working or it was not working. And then I wanted to like make some updates or fix the bug or whatever, and then I had to move it back. And that workflow was just kind of too annoying for me. I did manage to make a USB game controller from that. And I forget if I ever published the code online, but I shared photos a long time ago. I'm not going to find them right now because that was on Twitter and that was, 6 years ago or something like that. But yeah, so that I have developed for. So GL int is correct. And then we have count. What is count? Size of vertex null pointer color divided by F32. Oh, okay. So this is counting the number, if this is an array or not. Well, it's only a 1. We can do the same thing to be consistent. But basically, this is just a very fancy way of saying equals 1, because offset x is the size of 4, and this is 4. So then you get 4 divided by 4. Am I coding by hand? Yes. I do use, right now I'm using Gemini for some guidance, just to like summarize documentation for me. It's basically like, for me, it's the same as making a Google search. I can make a Google search for this, or I can just paste the same thing in there and it will tell me the same thing. Sometimes it's better. This gives better results, I think. I don't know why it's giving me JavaScript, but you didn't know people still do that. Well, anyone who is a serious programmer does that. Of course, there might be people who try to avoid it, but show me something that was vibe coded that was good. And by good, I'm not saying working. I'm saying that it's actually good, because I haven't really seen anything so far. So I think AI is perfectly fine as a not assistant. Like, it's good like a search engine. It's better than a search engine, but writing code for you, I think it's pretty bad. Of course, if you are willing to spend thousands of euros, then you can get an AI that writes better code for you, but better is still not very good. So, that's my opinion on it. We need to do the same thing for Y and ID. So offset Y. And then glyph ID. You are a professional dev and haven't written a single line of code for 6 months. Well, have you made something worthwhile? And how much money did you spend on tokens? Glyph ID. What was this? Glyph ID, glyph ID. In alphabet H. Glyph index. Right. So, like, again, I think I showed this yesterday, but Anthropic C compiler, I think this is such a good example of how bad AI is at making code without any human input. So I was talking about this the other day, but just to summarize, this is literally like by the top programming AI creator, like I think Anthropic is having the best model for programming right now. And they spent, tens of thousands on tokens to make this compiler. And not only does it have a ton of issues where like literally the first issue is just like this hello world does not compile, but also the code that it was making, the code that it's generating, this compiler is trash. It's really slow, really bad. And the things that are actually decent are just copy paste from existing code. So like if you can show me a project that was actually well made, then I would believe you. But I have never seen one. So that's what I mean. So like yes, I can ask AI to make me something and it will spit it out. Either it will spit out something that already exists. And like I am not reinventing the wheel here by I'm not doing something extremely crazy by using OpenGL ES300. So if I'm asking it for examples, it's going to use like one of the like million examples on GitHub to spit me out something like very fairly close to what I'm doing. But that's only because that code already exists. So it's a very good, you know, not pirate. What do you call it? It's a very good copy paster, right? It's very good at copy pasting code. I have never seen it actually make some good code itself. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't use it as a resource and write good code yourself, but like there's no way to take the human out of it. If that would ever change, then I would change my mind. I just have never seen it. So yeah, glyph index, size of, this is a uint or unsigned int. What do you call that? Unsigned int. So we are creating that. So now we need in main. We shouldn't have shape. We should have these offset X. And glyph ID. 0, 1, 2. Sure. Offset x. It's not an IVEC4, it's an int. Uint y glyph index. So this now becomes let's call it x, y, and ID. How do I access the index in here? Shape X. Indices. Corner ID. Vertex data. That's not at all. No, this is not what I need. Yeah, thank you very much. What are you talking about? 4 separate IVEC for attributes? I need I know that it doesn't allow buffer variables. But is there really no way? So if someone is good at OpenGL in the chat right now, you could help me out because I am having 3 types of buffers. I am having the VBO, EBO, and UBO. Now they are very different, but I am not sure how to really connect this in the best way. So in a VBO, these are literally the vertices, and then you connect them to make triangles. And it just so happens that I always want to draw quads. So I just have a bunch of a bunch of vertices like this, and they can have different distances to each other. They can even be like this. They might even be like this, or they can be like that. And then all I want to do is draw this one, this one, this one, and then this one, this one, this one. So I get my 2 triangles, and then I go to the next, and I go to the next, and I go to the next, and so on and so forth. Now, normally, where did my mouse go here? A VBO needs an EBO. And that is because, you know, if you imagine that you have a complicated model like this, you have a bunch of vertices. Here's one, here's one, here's one, here's one, back there is one, there, there, there. If you're not making a box, you would be drawing these triangles in some order, and that order would just be not random, but it could be, you know, 0, 1, 2, 0, 2, 3, but then you have 678, 679, and 680, and so on and so forth. So like what you do typically is you are defining a VBO and an EBO, and then together they are being drawn such that you are defining in which order all of these dots are going to be drawn. And then the graphics card is drawing the triangles between them, right? Now, I have a specific situation again, because I always want to draw them from 0, 1, 2, 0, 2, no, 0, 2, 3. And then the next one, 4, 5, 6, 4, 6, 7, and so on and so on and so on. So I don't need the EBO. It doesn't matter to me. If I have to set it up, maybe I can set it up a single time up to, you know, 1,000 characters, and then I just draw a limited number of them. But I'd rather not do that if I can avoid it, because it's just, you know, dumb memory sitting there doing nothing. Like technically it's helping me draw the VBO, but it's always the same. So like I don't understand why it would be necessary to always be exist in memory. Now what I was doing before was I was using a UBO. A UBO always exists in the graphics card memory, where like you bind it once, and then until you unbind it, it's going to exist for any shader, any shader running. And that is perfect for drawing the fonts, because you have one, you know, rectangle here. This is the letter A. You have another rectangle. This is the letter B. And you can just define your entire alphabet like that. So what I'm actually doing is I'm having an offset, X offset and Y offset. And then I have an index. So this is the index of B. So this would be like 1. Over here, I might have G or something. And this is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 7. So then I have another offset and another Y offset and 7. And that's how I'm drawing B and then G. And because the alphabet is never changing, the characters are not changing shape, or anything like that. So that fits perfectly in a UBO. I just like create it once, set it once, it just exists there. And then whenever I want to draw text using this specific alphabet or font, I'm just using this data. And then I'm setting this in the VBO right now. But the problem I'm having is that the VBO literally doesn't work without an EBO as far as I can find. So that is what the problem I'm trying to solve. They always yeah. And then I can do this like texture hack. I don't want to do the texture hack because then I create a texture with all of this stuff and it's just kind of dumb because I have to create the texture and I have to assign it. And it's just like a way of getting UBO data with less limitations like the size. This is the industry standard. It's always telling me bullshit like that. I don't industry standard. What are you talking about? I think the industry standard is using Vulkan, honestly. Or something different is probably the industry standard, but definitely not this. Or am I wrong? Tell me if I'm wrong. But okay. So we are currently right now we're giving up. I I I think I was struggling with the same issue like a month ago or a month and a half ago or even 2 months ago. And then I was just like, okay, let's make two UBOs and just use those, accept, defeat, and have the limited memory of like 1,000 glyphs or something like that in one string. And now I realize the issue. Well, we only have a limited number of UBOs, and we can't really unbind them and rebind them and rewrite them on the fly without having potential stutters. So now I'm just reverting back to a VBO, but then with a VBO, I need to have an EBO. So let's just make the fucking VBO. And we can say, well, how many, we can bind a VBO that is of a specific size, but let's open a calculator here, right? So if we're doing U16, we don't need negative numbers. So it's a U16. What is U16 max? It's 65,000 something. What is 60? What is this divided by 6? It's 10K ish. So what is 1024 times 2 times 2 times 2? So should we say that 8192 is the longest string that we can make? How much would 16 bytes be times this? It would be it would be 128 kilobytes, which is pretty fine, honestly. That is a like max worst case scenario. 128 kilobytes, that's nothing. Like I could draw thousands of those and it would be completely fine. Or well, at thousands, it would probably be struggling, especially in the browser. But it's going to be fine. And the thing is, most strings I'm going to draw are only going to be 10 characters, 20 characters, 50 characters. Let's say that my max realistic one is going to be like a couple hundred characters because it's like, you know, a couple sentences. Not a couple, maybe 1,000 characters. I don't know. A sentence or two. At least for a game. If it would be a different application, maybe it would be longer. But, you know, this seems pretty good to me. So let's just go to our main here. And we are creating a text or string create. VBO ID. Well, it shouldn't be text create. It should be here. So we're doing this. We are now we need to generate the buffer. We need to create the size. So arena alloc. This is scratch. Size is size of U16 times 8192, was it? And then literally, well, we can do const I32 count or UBO count equals this. And then for I32 I equals 0, I less than UBO count, I plus plus. We are setting the, well, we get back a U16 array. And what did we say? We said it was UBO count divided by 6 plus UBO count mod 6. And then we just do that. Then we do buffer create graphics. Sure. Buffer tag. It's an EBO this time. The data is UBO val. Count is UBO count. Stride U16. Bind index. It only does something in uniform. So like we can just do 0. We get back a buffer. or EBO, like entity buffer, object buffer. No, it's the ID. And then we store that somewhere, but that's not really important right now. I do want to look at that being correct. So let's go main. UBO ID. No. EBO ID. Wait, what variables were undefined? Shape, shape, and glyph ID. But I changed the name. Oh. Oh. This is not super important right now. Vertex. I only wanted to run glyph ID. Glyph ID. Expecting colon. That's good enough for me. Assignment of incompatible. It's probably because this is a mat4. So dot. I wish I had autocomplete. Some intelligence here. Let's do one or maybe 0. Perfect. Best shader ever. Syntax error. Unexpected send or end. Huh? $end. What is that? Yeah. So I think you need to have an extra line break here, just like in C. Otherwise, it's syntax error. And I guess this shader didn't include that. So thank you very much, Gemini. We're here now. UBO value. Let's just do UBO count. We can take a look at it. Did I? Huh? Ah, very funny. Of course, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, zero, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4. Okay. So we can do this same thing here. Now, I think is there anything I can do here with the instance ID? I don't know. Again, I'm not good enough at shader programming to really be saying this one way or the other. What we can do is I32 offsets equals this. And then offset times equals 6. So what this is doing is that this will be 0, and then it will be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 every time it goes a multiple of 6. But then we're kind of flooring it to a multiple of 6 by doing this. So that means that we are having 0, 1, 2, 0, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. Oh, I see. So this is actually -1. Except for 0. No, it's not. It's not. I'm stupid. This is correct. Or is it? No, it's because it's 4. I see. This is a multiple of 4. And not -1. Okay. Now it makes sense. Look at this. 0, 1, 2, 0, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 8, 10, 11, and so on and so forth, all the way up to 8,000. Why is it? There we go. So that is actually not 8,000 characters. It's 8,000 corners. 0, 1, 2, 0, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh. What is 8191? 5,000. So I think this is my actual maximum amount of characters. Maybe even this, right? I believe this is my number of characters that I can support in one string using this. It's not UBO. What am I doing? EBO, EBO, E B O. EBO val, EBO count. We are creating this buffer. This is our EBO ID. That needs to go somewhere where I'm saving it. String text texture mesh font. We have the font count. So this is for each individual font, but the funny thing is that they're all sharing the same EBO ID. So maybe I just I'm not really sure. Maybe graphics, but it's only really relevant to OpenGL. I haven't looked at DirectX or Vulkan. So maybe we're just going to put it in here. GFX. Here we have, this is a GL int. Yeah. So now we have text create. I do need to add that to mesh create. Buffer IDs, VBO ID, and font EBO ID. No? Oh, whatever. This is a void pointer. So how do you know that this is an EBO? Because I do need to bind it as an EBO now. No, I don't. I'm just binding the buffer, and it knows that it's an EBO. The only exception is the uniform buffers. Okay. I'm doing this. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep that. So we are going back to OpenGL draw. And we are removing this and trying again. Though we do need to change the shader, right? So the nice thing is that we have this now. We don't need to do this vertex lookup. It's just the glyph index, offset X, offset Y, position, UV, vertex. Ah, okay. Yeah. So maybe that just works. Oop. Maybe it just works. Moment of truth. Ah. Okay. It didn't work. Let's see in RenderDoc what happened there. Because I had a feeling that would work. So we're drawing 162 elements. Well, that is wrong. It's going all the way into the distance. What is that? And then all the other ones are wrong. Oh, it's the same one. Unfortunately, RenderDoc doesn't allow you to debug exactly what's going on. But we can see some things. Buffer slot, cast to float, relative offsets. I don't know why it's jumping here. Does this make any sense? This looks like garbage. Index 65,000. Offset X, offset Y. I think this is just using the wrong thing. So that doesn't really help a lot. Guess we can go here and just see that everything was bound correctly. We have our graphics. $25. Probably good. And I would like to see that in RenderDoc. Like, can I see? It should have the buffer vertex array. It should have that buffer somewhere. Buffer 86. This is the vertex data. Zero. This one looks wrong, but it might be space or something like that. The other ones look good. So that's the uniform buffer. And then we're creating the vertex buffer with the shapes. It has 27 of them. And you can see here we have offsets 500, 84, 35. This all looks good. The question is, can I see this in here? It should be uniform. I don't know if I can actually see this in here. Like that's what this is supposed to be. Or no? GL position. VUV. It has neither. None of them. Well, it's this one's, right? Because that's the output. The input, offset X. Something is wrong here. This is garbage data. You can see this is what is coming in here. Vertex 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, this is not set anywhere except for this one, which is garbage. $26. We're using the font. 26 and 25 makes sense. We're having one texture. It's true. We're creating the VAO. We have multiple textures. We have multiple texture types. Yeah. We're creating the VAO. Buffer. Buffer count is 2, correct. So we're having 26. Bind index 0. Okay. 0 because it doesn't matter. ID 27. Maybe. I forget what this GLID was. Isn't it supposed to be this value? Or that's just the... Maybe these are the offsets into the table. I have to check this. I have 27 buffers. ID 27, 26, 25. Great stuff. First one is having ID 1. Okay. So that should work. We have one uniform buffers. Offset X, Y, and glyph index. They all look fine to me. Count. Sure. Let's look at the draw function. It has a mesh. All these things are fine. Uniform buffer count, buffer ID 17. Because it's the uniform buffer, sure. And the normal buffers are part of the VAO. We're using a different shader program. So we have uniforms. Okay. We have the projection matrix. And then we have the buff. Okay, raster, texture, cool. Color, also just, whatever. Then we have the vertex memory, which is this uniform block. Which I guess we don't do anything with it. Or this is just old. Uniform buffer count, we have one, so we're binding that. And that was working fine. Texture types, we are binding the texture because it's a different one. Bind index is 0. Activate this texture specifically, which is probably correct. I mean, we can take a look, I think. It's this one, which is, yeah, this looks good. This character is not defined for some reason. Yeah, that's the correct texture. So at the end of the day, like, I have no idea I don't know what the VBO is not showing up correctly. Hmm. If anyone has any ideas, I'm open to to listen. But this makes no sense to me. So for vertex 0, the index is 65,000. And then for this, the index is 2, which like still wrong. But then the data at 2 is completely wrong. So I think, am I just setting up the stride of the data wrong? Let's go back to, what was it? Let's take a look and let's also compare it. This is our buffer create for the string. And here's for the triangle. So we are creating this with a buffer tag VBO into the like 0th buffer. But that, like, this is just an integer from this like primitive info struct. So never mind about that. But we are calling it with a buffer tag VBO, this this data, size of vertex. Okay. So we go into OpenGL buffer create. We grab the tag VBO, target usage. That's fine. And I guess this should be static draw. I was thinking about changing that into dynamic draw so that it would be, if I wanted to use UBOs for the font, because I would have to rewrite the data there all the time. But like, look here, bind buffer, stride count. Where's the stride coming from? It's coming from there. And that is the same. Vertex shape, bind index. This bind index can be whatever. It doesn't do anything. And similarly for the EBO, here you have indices, EBO. It's just element array buffer. Okay. Does it have to be I32? Is that something I'm setting up in the... Hold on. in here, right? Do I set something up here? Uniforms, attributes, and then I call create shader program. I have my shader program data stuff. The stride is the same. Well, okay. The offset, it doesn't say anything about, the EBO. So where do I select that? Draw elements, really? It's in the draw function? Oh, damn. Okay. So let's try this then. GL unsigned in 16 or 16. What was it? Unsigned short. I bet that's the reason why, or like almost certain. Oh, it doesn't look any closer. But if we launch, this one, that is different. It's no good, but it's different. Well, this is awkward. You can see these are correct now. 0, 1, 2, 0, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 6, 7, blah, blah, blah. So I think I'm just defining. I think I'm just defining the size of those incorrectly. These attributes. So what is wrong here? Because I would expect one of them to be correct. This looks like it's some kind of float value that is cast to an int or whatever. But I'm telling it's an unsigned int. It's an int. It's a vertex shape, glyph index, offset X. There's only one of them. So am I doing something different here? Either attrib vertex position. Well, one thing is that they're all floats. Or no, this is, well, yes, they're all floats. Hmm. 0, 1, 2. It's called render doc. Oh, it's this attrib pointer. I remember that was a thing. So are attrib pointers only for floats? Generic vertex attribute data, but I can put in the type here. Uh, 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 right. I need to take a short break, so I'll be right back. All right, I am back. So we need to start finishing up. I think this is very confusing to me. So like this one takes unsigned int and GL int. But then if it's an actual integer, I need to use an alternative I pointer. So then I see. So I think what's going on here is that it's taking an integer and converting it into float. And then in here, in the actual shader, I use it as an integer, but now it's in a float. Now it's a float type. So this step is actually converting it. Now, I could do this. I think this makes sense. But it's weird to me that I have to do this in a way, but sure. So if GFX SP type attribute I type or data type. Was it data type or was it something different? No, it's data type. If its data type is equal to float, GL float, so the real way of dealing with this is that you're having some like sort of in data type, out data type. And I can actually try to do that if this works. But if it's a float, we do this. Else we do exactly the same thing, but we use this different function. Up tr. What is this? Expected 5 have 6. What is this? I forget what it is. Unsigned pointer. U64 pointer. I see. So what does this actually take? It takes the location, I guess. Let's compare them side by side. Index size type, normalized stride, pointer, index size. Oh, they're the same. Index size type, normalized, is Boolean. GL false. What does a normalized do? So we can just delete that, I think. Now let's see if it actually works. Are we any closer though? It's no closer. In GF. Let's see here. We have the triangle. It has 2 attributes, or 3. And then you have the rectangle. Huh? Oh. Of course, we're you doing that. Mm, okay, fair enough. So the primitive is never going to have that for now. I could maybe generalize this to a function, but I just want to make sure that I actually understand how it's working first. Oh, something is going on. $500. That looks good, dude. So are the vertexes incorrect? Hmm. So I think this vertex data is incorrect. So let's do this. Like that. Implicit cast. So this is an int. It can be a uint. That doesn't, I don't mind. This is a uint. Syntax error. Quad indices, vertex ID. I can do this now. Expecting at end of file. I don't understand. Invisible character. What are you talking about? Are there invisible characters here? Is it this tab or something? I am not. That makes no sense. Okay, maybe I'm getting closer. So let's see here. Draw. It's this that is messed up. The output. Although let's look at both side by side. Shaders, font. Are we doing the same thing then? We have that. Make it uint. Data. Vertex index, glyph ID, vertex in quad. Glyph ID. Well, what is glyph ID? It's this. And then we get the vertex corner. I don't know. Maybe that makes sense. Implicit cast. Is this an int? With index. Syntax error. Where is this syntax error? Did it say a line? Precision, high P, float. There is hidden bytes. No, there's no hidden bytes. There's no stray characters after the final function bracket. Struggles with that. Huh? That's not the issue. Is this signed? It should just tell me if it's an event, if it's a sign issue. Right, blah blah blah. Why is it so difficult to debug this? Why can't it just tell me, oh, you can't use plus here or something? So apparently putting the thing const outside was causing the issue for no reason at all. But if I put it as uint, then it was no issue. This is my life now, I guess. What is wrong here? This is still the wrong thing. Vertex ID. Can I print vertex ID or something? Mesh output. Does it say GL? It says vertex. and those go up. And then you have index 0, 1, 2, 0, 2, 3. So is it index ID? Instance ID, is it instance really? Oh, come on. Index ID. There's no variable index ID. Okay, thank you very much. This is just literally 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. Okay. So then I do get it from that. For some reason I can't zoom in. It's just completely messed up. It's like I'm missing one vertex. So it's times 4 because there's 256 with 4 vec4s each. And then I'm grabbing the corner. The specific corner 0, 1, 2, 0, 2, 3. Let's see if this fixes the first character. Oh, maybe. Ah, yeah, please. No, that's still messed up. So what is this trash at the end? But it looks like it's messed up in exactly the same way. You notice that? And does it just happen to be a bunch of squares there? By chance? I'm gonna find the pattern. I just need to have one square at the very beginning. So glyph index is something like 35. We move. Hold on. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Wait. I think I know the reason why it's messing up. Look here. It says the first vertex is 35, the next vertex is 22. Well, this should be really 35 4 times. So the issue is that this needs to be 4 times longer. Or rather, I need to draw this. I need to draw the. What is this? I need to draw 6 vertexes when I call not one vertex n times 6 times. There's a specific function for saying this draw elements should draw 6. It should like just multiply by this by 6 and use the same vertex 6 times. Wait. Oh. No, there's a call for like do this 6 times. Zero 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 1 1 1 1 1 1. Primitive restart instant geometry. There is a function for this. I forget what it's called. Triangle strip. Vertex attrib divisor. This is the call. Index. I don't know what index you want. The index of the what? Okay, once per instance, but I don't have an instance. I'm gonna have to come back to this. This is more complicated than I was hoping for. I'm so close to the answer. The I variant. What are you talking about? Count. I don't know. I'm gonna have to come back to this. I'm sorry that I couldn't solve it better, but thank you